Listen up, Ryan Poles has 1 month to change the future of the Bears. A legend might be coming back to Chicago, our starting tight end is on the trade block. And a defensive move could free up millions if Poles messes this up. We waste Caleb's window after what Ben Johnson pulled off. Y'all really think we're just gonna sit back? I'm telling you right now, what's coming is historic. Stick around till the end, because this is about to blow up. Smash that like button and subscribe, because tomorrow we've got even more bombs coming. First story, Khalil Mack after years of watching this defense struggle to get consistent pressure. After entire seasons begging for an elite pass rusher who could flip a game on their own. Let me ask you this, what if I told you the answer to all our defensive problems has a name, a number, and a love story with this city that never ended? Khalil Mack, number 52, the monster of the Midway. And folks, this ain't a dream, this is real. I believe, and hear me loud and clear, Ryan Poles is about to make the smartest move of his career as GM of the Chicago Bears. While the rest of the league is chasing shiny names in free agency, Poles knows something most people forgot. Khalil Mack can still play at an elite level. And more importantly, Khalil Mack wants a Super Bowl ring before he hangs it up. Remember 2018? Remember when John Gruden handed us Khalil Mack for the first-rounders? I was at Soldier Field that first game against the Packers. And when Mack strip-sacked Aaron Rodgers twice, forced a fumble and took it to the house, I knew we had something special. The whole city knew. Chicago hadn't seen a pass rusher like that since Richard Dent. And now, after watching Montez Sweat be our only consistent threat, after seeing Robert Quinn leave, after Roquan Smith walked out the door, we finally have a shot to bring back the men who define what it means to be a monster of the Midway in the modern era. Let's talk numbers, because we don't do hype here, we do facts. In 2025 with the Chargers, Mack logged 5.5 sacks. You know how many Bears players had more than that? None. Only the guys on our entire roster even had the full sacks. 2. That's unacceptable for a franchise built on defensive tradition, on the monsters of the Midway, on physical intimidation. But here's what really gets me fired up. According to Pro Football Focus, Mack generated 40 total pressures on 296 pass rush downs, and the wildest part, he got better as the season went on. 25 pressures in his last 6 games compared to 17 in his first 7. You get what that means, a 34-year-old who's getting better, not falling off. Now let me put this in context with what's happening in the NFC North, because this is critical. The Packers just extended Rashan Gary for $96 million over 4 years. The Vikings are paying Danielle Hunter $24 million per season. The Lions have Aidan Hutchinson on a rookie deal, but they're gonna have to pay him big when that extension hits, and here we are, with a chance to bring in a 9-time Pro Bowler, a former Defensive Player of the Year, for a fraction of what those teams are paying. You think that's luck? I'm telling you, that's Ryan Poles being smarter than every other GM in the division. Let me ask you this. Remember 2018 to 2021? Remember when Khalil Mack was the heart and soul of this defense? 36 sacks in 4 seasons, 121 solo tackles, 14 forced fumbles. This dude was a problem for every offensive coordinator in the NFL. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Miguel, the guy's 34. He's not the same player. And you're right, he's not the same player. But here's the thing. We don't need 2018 Khalil Mack. We need 2025 Khalil Mack. The one who can still get pressure, still force fumbles, still teach our young pass rushers how to do this at a pro level. Think about it. We've got Montez Sweat on one side. If we bring Mack to the other, suddenly Dennis Allen has the flexibility to create packages that NFC North offensive coordinators are gonna hate. You can line Mack up inside on passing downs, move him around, run stunts and twists that mess with protections. And you know what else? Imagine what Mack can teach our young guys. We've got Austin Booker, a 5th rounder who flashed in 2025. We've got DeMarcus Walker as a solid vet. But none of them have played at Mack's level. None of them know what it's like to be the best pass rusher in the NFL. Mack can be a mentor. He can teach hand technique, how to read protections, how to use leverage, how to turn speed into power. That stuff you don't learn in the film room, you learn it on the practice field, working with a future Hall of Famer. Because here's the truth. Family, our defense under Dennis Allen was solid, but the pass rush was mediocre. 35 total sacks as a team, tied for 7th worst in the entire league, while the Packers, Vikings, and even the damn Lions are out there pressuring quarterbacks. We're watching Caleb Williams work magic on a fence and wondering why we can't close games. Let me give you a specific example. Week 14 against the Vikings, Sam Darnold had all day to throw. He completed 31 of 42 passes for 348 yards. Why? Because we pressured him on just 18% of his dropbacks. 18%. That's embarrassing. Now imagine that same game with Khalil Mack on the field. Suddenly Darnold's worried about Sweat on one side and Mack on the other. He's got to get the ball out quicker. He makes mistakes. That's when our secondary, which is GOOD when it gets help, can create turnovers. Now let's talk money, because this is where it gets interesting. Spotrac projects Mack's market value at 18.4 million per year. But Over the Cap, which I trust more, has him valued at just over 7.1 million. 7 million. You know what that is for a player of his caliber, a steal. Let me put that in context. With the salary cap, the cap is set to jump to around 173 million in 2026. That's a 26.5 million increase from 2025. Chicago, after a few moves we'll talk about in the next stories, will have room to work. If we sign Mack for 7 million, that's about 2.5% of the total cap. For comparison, the Packers are paying Rashan Gary 9% of their cap. The Vikings are paying Danielle Hunter almost 9% too. We'd be getting Pro Bowl production for a fraction of the cost. And here's the X factor nobody's talking about. Khalil Mack has been clear about what he wants. He wants a Super Bowl ring. Before he retires, he doesn't want money. He doesn't want empty stats. He wants to win. Let me ask you, where does he have the best shot to do that? On a rebuilding team, or with the Chicago Bears, who have Caleb Williams, an explosive offense under Ben Johnson, and are one pass rusher away from being legit contenders? I think the answer's obvious. Think about the story. Family. Khalil Mack comes back to Chicago, the city that made him a legend. Soldier Field still chants his name. The fans never forgot him. And this time, he's not just here to be great, he's here to win a championship. You know how powerful that would be. You know the emotional impact that would have on this locker room. Young players would see a future Hall of Famer choose to come back to Chicago because he believes this is where he can win. That changes the culture. That changes the mindset. But here's what really gets me hyped, and why I think this is going to happen. The emotional connection. Chicago fans love Khalil Mack. When we traded him to the Chargers, it felt like losing a family member. Soldier Field still misses him. The city still misses him. And I know, because I've talked to y'all in the comments, that everyone wants to see that number 50 to back in navy and orange. Picture this. It's September 2026. Soldier Field. Monday Night Football against the Packers. The lights come on. The defense takes the field. And there's Khalil Mack. Back home, chasing down Jordan Love. The crowd erupts. The stadium shakes. And in that moment, everyone in the NFL knows Chicago is back. You gonna tell me that doesn't give you chills? You gonna tell me you don't want to see that? And from a tactical standpoint, this makes all the sense in the world. Dennis Allen knows how to use elite pass rushers. He worked with Cameron Jordan in New Orleans for years. He knows how to build packages, rotate guys, keep them fresh for the fourth quarter. Ben Johnson is building an offense that can hang with anyone. We saw what he did in year one. Caleb Williams threw for 4,300 yards and 32 touchdowns. Rome Odunze had 1,100 yards as a rookie. D'Andre Swift ran for 1,200 yards. This offense is legit. All we need is that defensive piece who can bring pressure on third downs, force turnovers, flip the momentum of a game with one play. Khalil Mack is that guy, and I'm telling you this with full confidence. If Ryan Poles isn't on the phone with Joel Siegel, Mack's agent, the second free agency opens, he's making a mistake, because this opportunity won't last. Other teams will call. The Cowboys need pass rush. The Falcons need pass rush. The Commanders, after their big season, will want to add vets. But we've got something no one else can offer. The chance to come home, to finish what he started, to bring a championship to the city that made him a legend. And let me say one more thing. Khalil Mack deserves to retire a Chicago Bear. He deserves to have his number retired at Soldier Field. He deserves to have his bust in Canton with a Bears helmet. But for that to happen, for his legacy to be complete, he needs that ring. You think Khalil Mack wants to retire without a ring? You think he wants to spend the rest of his life wondering what if? I believe Mack knows Chicago is his best shot. I believe Poles knows it too, and I believe this is going to happen. Because at the end of the day, This isn't just about football, it's about redemption. It's about closing the loop. It's about a player who gave everything to this city coming back to finish the job. And when Khalil Mack lifts that Lombardi trophy at Soldier Field, when he hears 60,000 fans screaming his name, when he knows he finally did it, that moment will be special. That's what's on the line here, family. This isn't just a free agent signing. This is history. And if that blew your mind, wait till you hear this. Second story, Cole Kmet now. While we're dreaming about Khalil Mack coming home, Ryan Poles is sitting in his office at Hollis Hall making tough decisions. And one of those decisions involves a player who's been part of this offense for years. A guy a lot of you see as untouchable. Someone who represents everything it means to be a Chicago Bear. Cole Kmet, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I'm telling you right now, football is a cold business. And the numbers don't lie. From the moment the Bears drafted Colston Loveland in the first round of the 2025 draft, the clock started ticking for Cole Kmet. And after what Loveland did in his rookie season, 713 yards and 6 touchdowns, that clock is about to hit zero. But before you come at me in the comments, let me break down exactly why this is the right move, even if it hurts. Let's be real about what's happened with Kmet the last 2 years, because we don't sugarcoat anything here. In 2023, under Luke Getsy's system, Kmet had 73 catches for 719 yards. Solid numbers, TE1 numbers in the NFL. But in 2024, with Shane Waldron, he dropped to 47 catches and for 174 yards. And in 2025, under Ben Johnson, 30 catches for 347 yards. You see the trend. That's not progression, that's regression. And when you're paying a guy $11.6 million per year, like Kmet is set to make each of the next 2 seasons according to Spotrac, that kind of drop-off is unacceptable. Now, I know what you're thinking, Miguel, but Kmet's a solid blocker. He's a team guy. He's a leader in the locker room. And you're absolutely right. Cole Kmet has been a pro, worked hard, and rep Chicago with class since the day he was drafted in the second round back in 2020. But here's the question Ryan Poles has to ask. Can we justify paying $11.6 million to a second tight end when we've got critical needs elsewhere? Let me put it in perspective. $11.6 million is what teams pay for starting caliber guards. It's what a starting linebacker costs. It's what we need to improve our secondary depth. Are we really gonna use that money on a guy who's only on the field for 30% of offensive snaps? Because that's the reality with Colston Loveland emerging as T1. Ben Johnson loves using tight ends in his system. We saw it in Detroit with Sam Laporta. But he uses one primary tight end, not two. Loveland's gonna be on the field for 70, maybe 80% of snaps. Kmet's gonna be a role player. And family, you can't pay $11 million to a role player, not when you're trying to build a Super Bowl contender. But here's what makes this even trickier, and this is critical. David Njoku from the Browns just announced he's hitting free agency. Isaiah Likely from the Ravens is going to be available. Kyle Pitts from the Falcons is on the market. Suddenly, the tight end market is flooded with options that don't cost draft picks. Let me ask you, if you're a team that needs a tight end, are you going to give up picks for Kmet when you can just sign Njoku, who's got similar numbers, without giving up future assets? I don't think so, and that makes Poles' job a whole lot harder. Let's compare Njoku's numbers. In 2025, he had 58 catches for 682 yards and 5 touchdowns with the Browns, almost identical to what Kmet did in 2024. But Njoku won't cost you picks, just money. So here's Poles' dilemma. If he puts Kmet on the market now, before Njoku, Likely, and Pitts sign, maybe he gets a third rounder, maybe a fourth. But if he waits, if those guys sign first, Kmet's value drops. Suddenly you're talking about a fifth rounder, a sixth, or worse, no market. That's the nightmare. That's what Poles has to avoid. According to Spotrac, if Chicago trades Kmet in the next few weeks, they'd free up $8.4 million in cap space. $8 million. You know what we can do with $8 million? We can bring in Khalil Mack. We can sign a starting guard like Jonah Jackson or Ben Powers. We can add a veteran safety like Justin Simmons. The options are endless. And here's the part no one wants to admit. The chemistry between Kmet and Caleb Williams just isn't there. We've seen Caleb build instant connections with Rome Odunze, with DJ Moore when healthy, with Loveland. But with Kmet, something's off. The numbers back it up. In 2025, when Caleb targeted Kmet, his completion percentage was 62%. When he threw to Loveland, it was 71%. To Odunze, 74%. That gap isn't a coincidence. Now, this isn't a knock on Cole Kmet as a player. The guy's been a pro, worked hard, and rep Chicago with pride, but football is a production business. And when a rookie is outplaying you on your own turf while you're making $11 million a year, the decision makes itself. Think about this from a roster building perspective. We've got Caleb Williams on a rookie deal making $9.5 million. Loveland's on a rookie deal making $3.2. Odunze's on a rookie deal making $4.1. If we move Kmet and eventually DJ Moore, we've got a full offense of young, cheap playmakers with cap space to invest in defense and the O-line. That's the formula to win in today's NFL, family. Look at what the Eagles did when they won the Super Bowl in 2017. Carson Wentz was on a rookie deal. Zach Ertz was the vet tight end. But they surrounded him with cheap weapons. They used their cap space on the D-line. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Chris Long. That's the blueprint. Look at what the Lions are doing right now. Jared Goff on a manageable deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown exploded while on a rookie contract. They spend money on the D-line. And look where they are, just played in the Super Bowl. We've got the chance to do the same, but only if Poles has the guts to make the tough calls. But here's the problem I mentioned earlier, with Njoku, Likely, and Pitts on the market. Who's gonna give up anything significant for Kmet? I think Poles is gonna have to be patient. He'll need to wait for those free agents to sign, then pounce on the teams left empty-handed. That's when Kmet's value goes up. Because think about it, Kmet still has 2 years left on his deal. For a team that misses out on Njoku or can't afford Pitts, Kmet offers stability. A proven player who can be T1 in a lot of systems. The Commanders, for example, just made the NFC Championship with Jaden Daniels. Zach Ertz is retiring. They need a young, reliable tight end. Kmet fits perfectly. The Bengals, they've got Joe Burrow but lost Hayden Hurst. They need a tight end who can block and catch. Kmet can do that. The Rams, Tyler Higbee's out with injury. Stafford needs a safety blanket. Kmet's been that his whole career. Timing is everything in these trades. I'm telling you, Ryan Poles isn't going to give Cole Kmet away. He's going to wait for the right offer, the right moment, and when it comes, he'll pull the trigger. And when that happens, we'll have Colston Loveland as T1, an elite blocker as TE2, and $8 extra million to upgrade this roster. Is it sad to see Kmet go? Of course, the guys from Chicago went to Notre Dame, basically local. He's bled Navy and Orange since day one, but sometimes in this business, you've got to make the hard calls to take the next step. And family, we're ready to take that next step. Look, I get the emotional connection. I get that Kmet represents stability, professionalism, everything we want in a Chicago Bear. But I also get that Caleb Williams is 23. Our championship window is now. We can't waste years being sentimental. The Packers weren't sentimental when they moved on from Jordy Nelson. The Patriots weren't sentimental when they let Wes Welker walk. The 49ers weren't sentimental when they traded DeForest Buckner. Those teams understood that to win championships, sometimes you've got to make moves that hurt. And when Colston Loveland is making Pro Bowls over the next 5 years, when we're using that Kmet cap space to build a dominant D-line, we'll look back and say, Ryan Poles made the right call, because at the end of the day, this isn't about Cole Kmet versus Colston Loveland. This is about maximizing our chances to win a Super Bowl while Caleb Williams is on a rookie deal. And I believe trading Kmet, as painful as it is part of that plan. And just when you thought we were done, third story, Jaylen Johnson. Now comes the decision nobody wants Ryan Poles to have to make but the calendar. And the salary cap are forcing it. What do we do with Jaylen Johnson? And family, I gotta be real with you, this one hurts. Jaylen Johnson has been the heart of our secondary for years. Pro Bowler in 2023, a leader. A corner who could lock down the opposing team's best receiver week after week. The guy who lined up across from Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian Watson, and said, not today, but football, like I've said before, is a cruel business that waits for no one. Here are the facts, and the facts don't lie. Chicago is currently $5.3 million over the salary cap. That puts us 24th in the league. Every penny matters. And Jaylen Johnson is set to count $25 million against the cap next year. $25 million. And here's what makes this even more urgent. Johnson has a $7.6 million signing bonus. That becomes fully guaranteed on the third day of the league year. That's March 13th, folks. Exactly 31 days from today. Ryan Poles has 1 month to decide whether to commit that money or free it up. if Poles moves Johnson before March 13th. He frees up $7 million in cap space if he waits until after June 1st. It jumps to $16 million. $16 million that could bring in Khalil Mack. Upgrade the offensive line. Sign an elite safety or add linebacker depth. $16 million that could be the difference between being a wild card team and being a legit Super Bowl contender. Now let me explain why this decision is so complicated. Jaylen Johnson had his worst season in the NFL in 2025, and yeah, I know he was banged up. I know he never looked fully healthy, but the numbers are brutal. He gave up 156 yards in coverage. His catch rate allowed was 72.7%. For a corner who's supposed to be elite, who was a Pro Bowler just 2 years ago. That's unacceptable. Just 17 total tackles in 7 games, 2 pass breakups, 1 interception. For comparison, in 2023, his Pro Bowl year, he allowed just 183 yards in coverage with a 58% catch rate. He had 12 pass breakups and 3 picks. That's a massive drop-off. And what really got under my skin watching the games was the effort. There were plays where Johnson got beat and just didn't close, didn't chase, didn't fight for the ball. Week 5 against the Vikings, Justin Jefferson burned him on a post route for 42 yards. Johnson had the angle to make the tackle and gave up. Let Jefferson run another 15 yards after the catch for a guy making this kind of money. That's inexcusable. Week 11 against the Packers, Christian Watson beat him on a go route. Johnson didn't even turn his head to look for the ball. Pass interference, 38 yards. That's rookie-level technique, not Pro Bowl stuff. But here's the other side of the coin and why this decision has me torn. Jaylen Johnson's talent is undeniable. When he's healthy, when he's locked in, he's one of the best corners in the league. Does one bad season define his whole career? Or do we give him the benefit of the doubt? Let me ask you this. If you're Ryan Poles, do you risk $25 million on a guy coming off his worst year? Or do you use that money to bring in multiple pieces that can improve the entire roster? Let me put it in context with what's happening around the league. The Dolphins just extended Jalen Ramsey for $24.1 million per year. Ramsey's 29. The Cowboys are paying Trevon Diggs $21.4 million. Diggs is 26. Jaylen Johnson turns 27 in April. He's in his theoretical prime, but he just played like a guy in decline, not a guy in his prime. Do we pay $25 million hoping 2025 was a fluke? Or do we cut our losses and spend that money elsewhere? Because think about what we could do with $16 million in cap space. We could bring in Khalil Mack for $7 million. We could sign Justin Simmons, the all-pro safety from Denver, for $8 million. Suddenly we've got an elite pass rusher and a top-tier safety for the price of keeping one injured corner, or we could invest in the offensive line. Jonah Jackson from the Rams is hitting the market. Ben Powers from the Broncos too. We could bring in one of them for $10 million. Protect Caleb better and still have $6 million left over. The options are endless. And here's the reality nobody wants to admit. We've got 7 picks in the draft, including 3 in the top 89. We can draft a young corner in the 2nd or 3rd round, put them on a rookie deal, making $2 million a year, and use the $23 million difference to address other needs. Cooper DeJean from Iowa might be there, Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, Nate Wiggins from Clemson. All 1st or 2nd round talents who can contribute right away. And all of them will cost a fraction of what we're paying Johnson. Modern football is about maximizing value. It's about having elite players on rookie deals while spending your cap on premium positions. Pass rusher, offensive line, quarterback. Paying $25 million to a corner coming off an injury-riddled, underwhelming season just doesn't make financial sense. And here's the big but, what if Johnson comes back healthy? What if 2025 was just a bad year? A fluke caused by injuries? What if we cut him and he signs with the Packers or Vikings and goes back to being all-pro? That's the nightmare, right? That's the decision that's gonna keep Ryan Poles up at night. Picture this. We cut Jaylen Johnson. He signs with the Vikings for $15 million a year. He returns to 2023 form. Suddenly we're facing him twice a year, and he's locking down Rome Duns, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. That would be devastating, not just for the roster, but for the team's psyche, for the fans, for the organization. I think, and this is just my opinion, Poles is gonna have to make the business decision. He's gonna have to look at the numbers, the cap space, the opportunities in free agency and the draft, and say, we can't justify $25 million for Jaylen Johnson. And when that happens, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt the fans, the team, and Johnson himself. but that's the business. Now, there's a chance Johnson and his agent are willing to restructure, take less money over more years, work out a deal that helps both sides. If that happens, if they can drop that cap hit to 15 or 18 million, then maybe it makes sense to keep him, a 3-year, $45 million deal with 30 guaranteed. That would drop his 2026 cap hit to 15 million, still a lot, but manageable, and it gives Johnson the long-term security he's looking for. But if not, if Johnson wants the full bag, if he's not willing to negotiate, then Ryan Poles has to do what's best for the long-term health of the franchise and family. That means saying goodbye to one of the best corners we've had in years. Think about what Johnson has meant to this defense when he came in as a second-round pick in 2020. Nobody expected him to be this good this fast, but from year one, he was a starter. He covered the league's best: Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Terry McLaurin. And he didn't just cover them, he shut them down. 2023 was his breakout year. Pro Bowl, second team, All-Pro, allowed just 1 touchdown all season. 1 in 17 games. That's elite. That's shutdown corner stuff. But 2024 and 2025 were different. The injuries piled up. The performance dipped. And now we're here, wondering if the risk is worth it. March 13th is coming fast. 1 month, 31 days for Ryan Poles to make one of the biggest decisions of his GM career. Does he commit $25 million to a guy coming off his worst year? Or does he free up that space and build a more balanced roster? I know what I'd do. But the question is, what will Poles do? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about Jaylen Johnson. It's about the direction of the franchise. It's about whether we're going to be sentimental or ruthless in the pursuit of a championship. The Bears have been sentimental for decades. We've held onto players too long. We've paid for past production instead of future value. And where has that gotten us? 1 playoff win since 2010. It's time to change that mindset. It's time to be like the Patriots, the Steelers, the 49ers. Teams that aren't afraid to make the hard moves. And if that means saying goodbye to Jaylen Johnson, then so be it. But Chicago's not done yet, family. We just broke down 3 massive decisions that are going to shape the future of the Chicago Bears. Khalil Mack coming home to chase a ring. Kmet getting traded to free up cap space and hand the full-time role to Colston Loveland. And Jaylen Johnson staring down a 1-month deadline. That could end his time in Chicago. Let me ask you this. Do you think Ryan Poles has the guts to pull off all 3? Bring back Mack, trade Kmet, and cut Johnson all in the same offseason? Because I'm telling you right now, if he does, if he's got the courage to make the tough calls, the Bears are going to be legit contenders in 2026. But I need to know what you think. First, question about Khalil Mack. Would you give him a 2-year, $14 million deal to bring him back? Or do you think we should invest that money in a younger pass rusher like Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat? Let me know in the comments. Personally, I think Mack is the right move for the emotional impact and the financial value, but I want to hear your arguments. Second question about Kmet. Is he tradable in this tight end market with Njoku, likely, and Pitts all available? Or should we keep him as depth behind Loveland and eat the $11 million cap hit? Personally, I think we have to move him before those free agents sign. But I get the case for keeping depth. What do you think? Third question, and this one's the toughest. Do you give Jaylen Johnson the benefit of the doubt after an injury-riddled season and offer him a restructured deal? Or is it time to move on completely and use that $25 million somewhere else? Because family, this decision is going to define our offseason. If we cut Johnson, we've got the money for Mack and another big free agent. If we keep him, we're betting he returns to 2023 form. Look, I know these aren't easy decisions. I know a lot of you have emotional ties to these players. Kmet is from Chicago, went to Notre Dame, and represents everything we love about local guys. Jaylen Johnson has been a warrior for us, a Pro Bowler, a leader. But we have to think like a franchise that wants to win a Super Bowl, not like sentimental fans. Ben Johnson gave us hope in year 1. We saw an offense that can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the NFL. Caleb Williams showed us we've got a franchise quarterback, a guy who can lead this team for the next 15 years. Roma Dunn showed us we've got a legit WR1. Colston Loveland showed us we've got a tight end of the future. Now it's Ryan Poles' turn to build the roster that takes us to the next level. And family, you are part of this. This community we've built here isn't just a YouTube channel, it's a family of Bears fans who live and breathe Navy and Orange every single day of the year. When the Packers break our hearts, we suffer together. When we win at Lambeau, we celebrate together. When we drafted Caleb Williams, we dream together. I need you to subscribe if you haven't already, because I promise you over the next few weeks, especially as we get closer to March 13th, we're going to have explosive updates on every one of these situations. Hit that like button if you believe Khalil Mack needs to come back to Chicago. Share this video with that friend who still wears their 2018 Mack jersey, with that cousin who gave up on the Bears after the Trubisky era, with that coworker who's a Packers fan and needs to see that Chicago is back, and comment below. I want a real debate about these 3 decisions. I want to see arguments for and against. I want to see passion, because that's what it means to be a Bears fan, never giving up, always believing, and always being ready to fight for this team. We are Chicago. We are the monsters of the Midway. We are the city of Ditka, of Urlacher, of Peyton, of Butkus, and after decades of mediocrity, after years of watching the Packers run the division, after entire seasons wondering if we'd ever be relevant again, we finally have the pieces to compete. We've got the quarterback. We've got the head coach. We've got the playmakers. Now we just need Ryan Poles to finish the puzzle, and I believe he's going to do it. I believe he's going to bring back Khalil Mack. I believe he's going to trade Kmet. And I believe he's going to make the tough call on Jaylen Johnson, whatever that call ends up being, because Ryan Poles isn't Ryan Pace. He's not Phil Emery. He's not Jerry Angelo. Poles knows how to build a winning roster. We've seen it in his draft picks. We've seen it in the hiring of Ben Johnson. We've seen it in the patience he's shown with Caleb Williams. Now we're about to see it in free agency. I'll see you in the next video. Family. Tomorrow we're diving into the other free agents Chicago should target, including possible upgrades on the offensive line and in the secondary. You don't want to miss it. Bear down. And remember, in Chicago, we don't play. This is serious. This is about a championship. See you soon, family. Bear down forever.